To start today's video, let's journey back to the beginning of my programming journey. Long before this channel and most of what I've been able to achieve, welcome to 2019, a time not scarred by COVID. 5 years ago. I started my journey by churning out mini games like a code-obsessed hamster on a wheel. Problem was, I relied way too heavily on long 3-hour tutorials. They were comforting, familiar, but they weren't exactly pushing my limits. Every time I tried wandering from those sweet, sweet tutorials, I failed. I couldn't do a single thing. Imagine having a hobby that you love oh so dearly. But every time you try doing that hobby, without a specific handicap, your level and skills are on par with the beginner. Maybe even worse. Because you can see where you should be after spending hours, days on end, but you just aren't there. Basically, I fell victim to tutorial hell. I was surrounded by all this amazing code from talented programmers, but my own skills just weren't growing. One day hit me like a compile time era. I needed to break free and try web development for a first. Naive as can be, I googled how to build websites in C# and ended up with ASP.NET showing boldly on my monitor. This brilliant, supposedly blazing fast framework by Microsoft, beloved by everyone who uses C#. It was perfect, I thought to myself. Something that could finally break that barrier between two different sides of the programming puzzle. It was there, in front of me. I fired up VS Code, created my first project, and then nothing. I stared at the file tree, model, view. What the heck is that? I tried everything to get past the first hurdle, but just kept failing. Turns out, Unity and tutorials had left me woefully unprepared for the harsh realities of any other part of programming. Microsoft's documentation as well felt like it was written in ancient developer speak. I couldn't understand a singular word. I stared and I stared when I stared at that project. Hours on end, and it crushed me. I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't do it. Months went by where I didn't even touch code. I felt like a fraud, a total phony. Every time I thought about opening up VS Code, the voice in my head screamed, what kind of programmer couldn't even build a reactive website? Heck, what kind of programmer can't even build out tutorials? My hobby, my escape, had been stolen by the burning thoughts within me, by those goddamn tutorials. Slowly, the wounds healed, the voices all quieted down, but ASP.NET still held this weird power over me. I've tried this a few times since, but I've always chickened out. I don't even know why anymore. Maybe just a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. Finally, a glimmer of hope shone through the dark, dark clouds that lay above me. A young framework called Flutter caught my eye as I read the latest tech news. It was new, it was unique. It promised to bridge the gap between web and mobile development not seen before. This time, I vowed to escape tutorial hell. I focused on the basics, the core concepts of programming and web development. And guess what? It clicked. For the first time, I felt like I was truly learning how to code, not just mimicking someone else's work. Here's the thing for programmers. Imposter syndrome is like a plague. No matter how good you are, you always end up with it. Or as this Reddit post states, there are only two kinds of programmers. The ones with imposter syndrome and the ones with the God complex. Every day, we're bombarded with these incredible projects built by individuals on tiny teams. And then there's YouTube, overflowing with tutorials promising to make you a master coder in 10 hours. Spoiler alert, it's a lie and completely unrealistic. Like all skills, programming can only be improved through regular practice for long periods of time. Any shortcut won't really teach you much. Sure, tutorials could be helpful, but I've seen way too many people get lost in the rhythm of watching them over and over again. When it comes to actually applying the knowledge that they've learned from watching all those tutorials. They're completely clueless. And to make matters worse, imposter syndrome has become a whole industry. Search it online and you'll be bombarded with ads for websites and courses promising to cure your doubts for a monthly fee. It's predatory. Like, how shameful does an organization need to be to prey on people's insecurities for the hope of a reoccurring subscription? Adobe. Imagine a new developer struggling to learn, feeling like a complete fake. They spend their hard-earned money on this new course, only to get sucked back into tutorial hell. Then they go to X website and watch the imposter syndrome fix. They finish the video feeling just as lost as before. They start to believe they'll never be a real programmer, that they're simply too stupid, too idiotic to understand the magic that makes websites and applications work. This cycle is toxic. It keeps the wonders of programming locked away from way too many people. I've seen so many people in my life fall into this toxic cycle over and over again. I've read just as many posts on Reddit, as well as people complaining about their experiences, learning and failing to learn to code. The sheer amount of damage these practices have caused is abysmal and catastrophic, and statistically, it would have affected a large amount of the people watching this very video, and it honestly shouldn't. So what can you do to avoid this toxic trap? Start with a language like Python, Ruby, Go, Java, etc. Focus on building small command line projects while seeking as minimal guidance as possible. Ensure when building these projects that when searching for help, you only search for specific topics like how to do a switch statement in X language, or how to get the current time in X language or framework. I think you get the gist. This will teach you the language's syntax and how to think like a programmer. Also, ensure not to forget about data structures and algorithms. They'll genuinely make you a better programmer and make your code substantially more efficient and readable. Bonus points if you can find a rustling style project for your chosen language that breaks down the language into bite-sized, manageable chunks that you can learn from. Or some people may prefer following a roadmap for a language or framework, in which case you can check out roadmap.sh. TLDR, learning to code sucks in 2024, but it doesn't have to.